Hey, class. This is the second part of my discussion of the searchers. And in the last couple of years, an amazing show has started to stream. It's on Hulu, it's on FX. It's called Reservation Dogs. And it's about four Indian kids on a reservation in Oklahoma. Everyone that's involved in the show, the creator, a man by the name of Sterling Harjo, the actors, the writers, the directors are all native peoples from Oklahoma. Oklahoma was the home for multiple native groups that were forced off their land, including the Cherokee and the Comanche from Texas. So Reservation Dogs, it's a play on the title of the Quentin Tarantino movie, Reservoir Dogs. Maybe you've seen it. Anyway, it's kind of a classic Tarantino movie. And these kids are they know Tarantino. There's a poster of Reservoir Dogs in one of the kids' rooms. Um, so this movie or this TV show, there's two seasons and there's going to be a third one, has absolutely blown my mind. It's, I think, the best show on TV now. It's made me think about things I've never thought about, and I've been teaching this for um, a long time. And it made me think about, should I assign the searchers? Is the searchers appropriate in 2022? Is it an appropriate representation of the past? And I actually debated about whether or not to assign the searchers, but you know what? I've decided to go ahead and do it. And even with the knowledge that I've gained, and by the way, Reservation Dogs is hilarious. Okay, so it's not like, go eat your vitamins or something and watch the show. The kids are amazing. It's hilarious. It just opens up a different world. They're very lively. They have a lot of agency. Their lives are tough, but they're not just victims. So it's a very funny show, very entertaining show. The humor is really low key, an amazing movie. But anyway, so there's a scene in the second season where they take a drive, and then they have this map. The director and he shows a map of all the tribal areas that these folks they're taking a long trip are going through, and it was just that kind of thing. This is so interesting because it was making me rethink kind of, my sense of space and boundaries, and what used to be, who used to control land, who does now. Anyway, so I guess what this podcast is an explanation of why I'm still assigning the searchers. Even though probably in 2022 there are aspects of it there that are troublesome, I think on the whole it's still a movie that's worth watching. And let me explain why in this podcast. Um, First of all, it reflects the 1950s, changes in the 1950s America. And one of the things you'll see in the searchers is this idea of racial mixing. Marty, one of the characters, he's 1/8 Cherokee. He's been saved by the John Wayne character. So you have a little bit of racial mixing. Marty has a romance with one of the Anglo women in the movie. And in the 1950s, racial categories were changing. They were loosening to a certain extent in the United States. And this movie reflects that. The other thing that's about this movie, which makes it, I think, still worth watching, is it has well, John Wayne, for instance, is a psychotic in it. You don't know whether to root for John Wayne or to root against John Wayne. It's a very brave John Wayne performance because in some ways, he's very dangerous. You don't know if he's trying to save his niece, and this will make more sense when you watch the movie, or he wants to kill her because he believes that she's become Comanche. So the image of the main Anglo protagonist is very mixed, as you'll see. Although to be honest, this is a celebration of Anglo movement into the West. That's really undeniable, and we just have to. That just has to be put out there. But nonetheless, it complicates our picture of the story, especially for a movie made in the 1950s. And the other thing you'll see as you watch the movie, it complicates our understanding of U.S. power, especially U.S. cavalry in its war against the Comanche. Some of the things that the U.S. cavalry did. And I don't want to ruin any plot points, but there's a kind of a shocking scene in the movie as the cavalry attacks an Indian village. And so basically what I'm saying is in the searchers, the white people aren't all good guys, 100% good, and the native people's 100% bad. Although, to be honest, this movie does lean towards the Anglo side of the story. The other thing is there's a character in the movie, Indian woman who's played for comic effect. She becomes the wife of Marty, and there's a scene. It's kind of a mocking scene. She's kind of humiliated, but if you watch the movie and you see how her story plays out, it becomes quite powerful. And if her story. So if you watch it, you'll see what I mean. So now the other thing I like about The Searchers is just its different ethnicities. It has a very there's a lot of Spanish in this movie, which I think is interesting. There's a very important character who is a Tejano. He's either Tejano or he's from northern Mexico, who leads John Wayne to his niece. And this character, this either Mexican or Tejano character, is portrayed with great dignity in the movie. And that was unique for the 1950s, that you would have a Tejano Mexican American character, or even someone who was native Mexican character portrayed with that kind of dignity. And also, like I say, the use of the Spanish language. So it reflects the ethnicity of Texas, the multi-ethnic nature of Texas. It doesn't have African Americans really, but in truth, very few African Americans would have lived on the western edge of Texas because there was no cotton. You can't grow cotton there because there's not enough rain. Well, in 2022, you can grow cotton there because of irrigation, but you couldn't in the 1860s. So I like how it reflects the ethnic diversity of Texas. And so I still think it's worth watching. It's not perfect. It certainly presents the Anglo side of things. But even the character, the John Wayne character, he's an interesting guy. He knows the Comanche language. He knows the Comanche spirit world. Very complex figure. So at the same time, it's the overall story is kind of a story of Anglo dominance and Anglo conquest. The movie undercuts that in a way through the violence, especially of the U.S. cavalry, through the you don't know if John Wayne's a hero or a villain. So the main character is a very complex character. And then you see the tragedy of Anglo movement into the West and what it means for native groups. So anyway, I just thought I just felt like I needed to record this podcast because I wanted to present The Searchers in all its complexity and let you know that I really thought about whether or not to assign it this semester, but I think it's still worth seeing. I think it still tells us something. It tells us something about the changing nature of the United States and Texas in the 1950s. But it also gives us a sense of the past in a way that I think is useful. And it's a much more complex story than the one we usually get. Although in 2022, it probably would be much more complex if it was made today.